Welcome to Fringe Investigations, a podcast exploring topics on the fringe of this reality, including cryptids, paranormal, parascience, UFOs, conspiracies, and other unconventional phenomena. This is a collaborative effort between the Asheville Cryptid Society, me, the Cryptid Guy, and M&D Paranormal, sponsored by the Asheville Masonic Temple in downtown Asheville, North Carolina. If you would like to share a paranormal story, or you have evidence, or if you're interested in being a guest on our show, please contact us at 828-782-3766 or 828-484-1637. Our email address is ashevillecryptidsociety@gmail.com or mndparanormal@gmail.com.
Welcome to Fringe Investigations. I am your host, the Cryptid Guy, and with me, as always, are Slim and Tiny. You know, last night, Slim, Tiny, and myself were very honored. We got to be the recognized podcast of the month for Coast to Coast AM with George Noory and Tom Daneheiser. And we just really feel very lucky and honored to have that privilege. And we'd also like to show a shout out to our dear friend Joshua P. Warren, who has been with us since the beginning and introduced us to a lot of these people that have just been instrumental in helping us. Tiny, you want to say anything about that?
It was a really cool experience. Very glad to have had the opportunity.
That was awesome. Slim, you were awesome on that. How do you feel about doing that?
It was such a privilege to speak to literally millions of people live on the air. And George Noory put forward a really interesting question about what were some of the scariest and most intense times that we've had in our investigations. And I feel like we could speak so much more to that because we've had so much experience in the field of both cryptid and paranormal and what I call woo-woo stuff.
And you're right. And you know, that was a great question. And unfortunately, we didn't have a whole lot of time to answer it, but we've been thinking about it. So what tonight's episode is basically going to be is us discussing some of our scariest times, maybe some of the times that we were rethinking our cryptid and or paranormal careers, and the places in which we did these things. And I was thinking about this earlier after I talked to Slim. I think one of the scariest paranormal things that ever happened to me happened when I was in Bunready Castle in Ireland. My buddy Pat and I went to Ireland just to have some fun. And we stayed in Bunready. And we were in this castle. And it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I heard these little kids playing outside the window. So I actually opened the window and I said, "Hey, you guys mind? I'm trying to sleep up here." And these 2 little girls looked at me, just plain as day. They looked at me. They were both wearing white nightgowns, and they're running around giggling, hee hee. And they looked at me, and they ran away. So the next morning, we're going to get breakfast, and I made a comment to the innkeeper, and I'm like, "Hey, listen, there was 2 girls last night under my window keeping me and my buddy up, trying to get some sleep, jet lag, coming over, losing all that time." And she goes, "What'd they look like?" And I said, "They were 2 little girls. They were little white outfits." And she goes, "Oh, you saw them." And I'm like, "Huh? Who's them?" She goes, "Yeah, they died about 1450.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's exactly what they did. And I was like, that's what she said. And I was like, huh? That was probably one of the most prolific paranormal things that happened to me. Now I know Tiny's got more stories than that.
So they looked just like normal
Completely
people.
Corporeal, weren't see-through, heard them giggling. They were even talking to each other. Now, they had like a real Gaelic kind of accent, but I mean, you could still understand what they were saying. I thought they were just as real as anything. And we go down there. Even my buddy Pat looked up. He says, "What are these kids doing up?"
Oh, so you both saw them?
Oh, yeah. Because
Wow.
Pat's like, "Where's these parents? Where are these kids' parents? Why are they up running around like this?" So when we went downstairs the next morning and talked to the lady, and she'd been there for like 50-something years, and we described them. She's like, "Oh, you saw them." So when someone says it like that, "Oh, you saw them," I'm like, what's them? Them what? Them what? Them, that something's not good here.
Wow.
And she ended up telling us they were like 2 kids killed in like 1458. Their whole family was killed there. Every once in a while, people just see them right about that time. And it just happened to be like a full moon. So I think all the pieces just fell into place, and boom, there they were to harass the poor American tourists.
Oh, I'd be scared too.
I wasn't scared. I was tired.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cryptid Guy does not get scared. He has a healthy respect of fear.
For the listeners out there, if you've not listened to podcast number 1, the origin stories, you may not realize that you are the cryptid guy. You're much more cryptid than paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I'm much more paranormal than cryptid.
This is true.
We both cross over. I've had paranormal experiences my entire life. The group that I'm a part of, M&D Paranormal, it's a young group still, under a year. My question for you is, I know that you do have some experience with the paranormal. You have been part of investigations and so forth and so on. So when you have experience like this, where you see two full-bodied, talking, playing apparitions, the hell was your camera?
I didn't know what it was. I thought they were just regular kids. I'm not going to go take pictures of someone's kids. I mean, you go to jail for stuff like that. I mean, I'm just sitting there, minding my own business, trying to get the little kids to shut up so I can get some sleep. I'm jet lagged, a little bit hungover, I don't mind telling you. We stopped at Dirty Nelly's for 6 hours. So we needed to get some sleep.
I mean, and he's a lord, right? He's staying in a castle. He's up in Ireland, whatever. He's got stuff to do.
But it was just like one of those things where to me, they were just little kids that snuck out and went out and play outside. They had like this huge garden. I mean, if you can Google Bunready Castle and look at it, and you can see how massive the gardens are. And there was just one of those gardens, and there was a little B&B in the back. That's where we were staying, and they were just right over there. The place is gorgeous. It's incredible, but it's crazy haunted.
Well, I'm definitely envious. That's one of my bucket list places to go.
We'll get there eventually.
So, for myself, I honestly can't say that any of the paranormal experiences I've had have truly frightened me, because from a very young age, I've had an understanding of what they are. From a very young age, I decided that I was not afraid. However, what did scare me is a phenomenon that a lot of people are very accustomed to. It is called sleep paralysis. And there's a couple different schools of thought on sleep paralysis. And I have my own personal opinions after experiencing it for so many years in my younger days. Basically, you wake up, you're completely aware, but you cannot move. Many cases, you feel pressure on your chest, like somebody's sitting there. There's a very large percentage of people that experience sleep paralysis actually see creatures. Sometimes they'll be in the corner staring at them. A lot of times they'll be sitting on the chest. And typically, it's an old hag, an old, scary, witch-looking woman. Hence the name, the old hag syndrome. Myself, that's what I experienced.
Old hags?
Yes.
You saw an old hag?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's scary. Now to me, that'd probably be the most terrifying thing you can think of. Just something staring at you where you can't move.
That's like horror movie kind of stuff.
It was very, very
And you know what? That's like also common in like alien abduction too.
Yeah. It really, yeah. There's a lot of different theories that go into sleep paralysis. Alien abduction, paranormal things. The scientific explanation is the body paralyzes itself so we don't act out our dreams. And some of the dreams I've had, it's a real good thing, because I would tear the house down. Part of your brain wakes up, but your body's still paralyzed. That's the scientific version. I can't say that's right or wrong. I can't say that that's not part of what's happening. All I can speak to is my own experience. And my own experience was that happened every night.
Ooh. For
quite a few years. The way that I learned to break that paralysis, the first thing that I had to do is calm myself, where I wasn't afraid. And then I focus, the tip of my finger. You got to have a real good focus. And you get the tip of your finger moving. Once you get the tip of your finger moving, then you focus on your hand. You get your hand moving. Once your hand begins to move, you can move your arm. And usually by the time that arm moves, it breaks the paralysis and you wake up.
Were you like afraid to go to sleep, like knowing that you were going to have that kind of experience when you went to sleep?
I've never been afraid to go to sleep. I love sleep.
Yeah, but if I knew that I was going to go into a sleep paralysis, I'd be like kind of nervous.
Well, I also, during that time, and this is where part of my own theory comes in about sleep paralysis. During that time, I would actually project and astral projection.
Where would you project to?
Various places.
Vegas?
No Vegas. And I actually have a physical witness. But I think that when you project, I also believe wholeheartedly that there's other entities.
Oh, hold up, Tiny. So you have a witness that saw you project. So like you're sleeping in your bedroom and you projected somewhere else and someone saw you at that other place.
They felt me, yes.
That's pretty cool. We'll talk about that later.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That actually happened twice. That's why I wholeheartedly believe in it. I could easily explain it away, scientifically speaking. I could easily explain it away. I could accept that, except for the fact that somebody that I know, somebody that I trust, told me what happened that I wasn't aware of. But I believe thoroughly that there's other entities that when you project and you leave your body free, there's other entities.
Like demonic forces, maybe?
No, demonic is way overused.
That's a harsh word for it.
Demonic is way overused. Not to say that they're not there, but
Then what other
overused.
entities would be sitting there in the wings waiting for you to astral project so they could do something to you?
Any spirit that has a desire to come back into the physical world and to manifest. This could be somebody that, paranormally speaking, when a spirit tends to hold the same behavior and thought process that it did when it was alive.
So basically, that spirit that's like in limbo, hypothetically.
Yes.
They want to take over you. So it's basically like body possession. They want to possess your body.
In a way.
Or animated kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I don't think so much that. I think that, and as well as old hag syndrome, the hag is known to be a succubus. So what they're actually doing is when you're not in your body is just a shell. Your body is not who you are.
It's an avatar.
It's an avatar, exactly. Mm-hmm. When you're not there, there are all kinds of things that are opened up to feed off of that big chunk of flesh that's there.
That's so well put, Tiny. That's not at all disgusting.
Well, if there's any Trekkies in the room, then we're ugly bags of mostly water.
We're big meat sacks.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like hairless primate. I prefer that term.
Well, that's just colorful, poetic version of it.
But the hag, she's a succubus. I actually dealt with her face to face once.
Yeah, divorce court, right?
That was the second time.
Okay.
I saw her. I woke up. The room was perfectly lit, like it was daytime. Nobody but me in the room, and that wasn't right. I was with somebody. Somebody was in bed with me. They weren't there when I woke up, and it was light. It's middle of the night, but it's light. I look at my bedroom door, and I see the hag come flying in the door, literally flying in the top half of the door. This is also part of the reason that I tell people that we are much more powerful beings than we allow ourselves to be. There's so much that has been taught out of us that we can accomplish. It's sad. Anyway, I digress. She comes in the door, and I look at her, and this is as I'm older. I've had much more experience, much more studying that I've done. And I look at her, my first instinct, I throw my hand up, and I say, "No, you're not welcome here." And as soon as I do that, she flies out backwards. She's gone, and I wake up. Everything's normal. I have not had one bout of sleep paralysis since then.
That's really cool to say that you told the spirit no means no. Got her to go.
And for the listeners out there,
no means no. All right, Slim, your turn. What's a paranormal or a cryptid experience that scared the bejesus out of you?
I think it was a cross between paranormal and cryptid, actually. So as I know I've mentioned before on the podcast, I do a lot of camping in the woods in various places, way out in the wild, and go by myself, and I love that. To me, that's my me time, right? I'm out camping. I won't say exactly where, but I was way out in the middle of nowhere having a blast, and it was in the middle of July, and all the fireflies were out. And one of the phenomena in this area is that there are synchronized fireflies, and if you haven't seen these things, it's unbelievable. It'll be completely dark, and then one will start flashing, and they'll all start flashing together, and they'll all stop at the same time. It's unreal. So I'm out there camping, and I've got these night vision binoculars that I like to play with. And these synchronized fireflies, you think you see like maybe a couple hundred in an area. I mean, there's so many of them. They're pretty dense. You put on these night vision binoculars, and it's amazing. It's unlike any other light show you've ever seen. So I'm having a blast just sitting out there. It's kind of in the middle of the night. And I'm looking through these binoculars. And all of a sudden, I see kind of this weird light in it. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's funny. So I clean off the lens, and it's still there, and it's moving around and flashing, but it's not a lightning bug, right? Because I'm looking, and then it's getting really close. And so I put down the night vision binoculars, and for the first time in my life, it has since happened several other times, I am looking literally with my own eyes at a light orb. I got super freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, I'd seen them on camera, I'd learned a lot about them, but here I am sitting, and maybe 20 feet from me is a light orb hovering in the middle of the woods.
That's not that uncommon. I've seen a lot of cryptid reports involving orbs. In fact, there's a huge amount of reports, like in the Pacific Northwest, of people seeing our fuzzy buddy, and then either preceding or following, then they'll have 2 or 3 orbs
So
show
that's
up.
what's insane. So I'm sitting there and I see this light orb, and I'm already, in awe of this whole experience, and I try to address it. I don't have anything to film. I don't bring my phone or I have my phone off, and so I'm just enjoying watching this.
Not bringing cameras, I swear.
I know.
I'm going to yell at her how stupid this is for her going out there in the woods by herself.
I was having a hippie experience, okay? I was liking it. Mm-hmm. I see this light orb, and I'm in awe.
Calling your mama.
So I then have all the lights in the tent. So I'm sitting outside and just enjoying the evening. You're going to laugh at me for this, but I feel called to kind of like sing a song. So I'm just singing to the woods and whatever. And right when I end the song, like a second later, giant tree falls, maybe a couple 100 feet from me, and huge tree just bam, crashes to the floor, bounces, and like rolls down the mountain. And I'm like, okay, that was weird timing.
Oh, I've been out of there. Feet don't fail me now.
So that was really weird timing. And again, could it have been just a tree falling in the woods? Could have been. However, the timing and the fact that it was happening along with the orbs, and the whole reason I was camping alone there in the first place was there was a large concentration of stick signs, and I thought it would be fun. So with all those things combined, I didn't really sleep that much that night. 1, because I was a little freaked out, but 2, because I was just waiting for the next thing to happen. I was like, for sure something else is going to happen tonight.
All right, Tiny, I know you're thinking, because I'm thinking the same thing. And I'm thinking what every listener is thinking right now. Slim, what song were you singing?
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Come on. That's up.
Okay, it's a little embarrassing.
Nah, that's good.
Oh my gosh.
There's something.
This is like legitimately embarrassing.
Well, that's good. That's why I'm doing it.
So like way back in the 90s, I listened to really bad music, and there's this band called Creed.
Oh my God. You were singing Arms Wide Open, weren't you?
In the beginning, I don't remember what track it is, and it spontaneously came to me, but in the beginning of one of those tracks, I don't remember, there's like a little Native American chant. I felt called to do that, and it had a nice reverb off the mountain, because, it has the high notes away, and it was pretty. So I have no idea what I was saying, but apparently it was well received, and I learned it in a Creed song.
Well, I will tell you this.
There's nothing wrong with Creed.
Squatchy likes heavy metal. So if you sing some Iron Maiden or maybe a little, old school Ozzy, he might show up. Led Zeppelin, he's not a fan of.
I think she could do Ozzy a little bit better.
She probably could. She could pull,
Yeah.
Crazy Train. Definitely.
So you know what the orbs are, right?
As far as
when you have a cryptid experience and the orbs are before and after, all those reports, it's simple. It's him traveling between the dimensions.
Oh my God.
I like it. Continue.
Oh my God.
We know that somebody doesn't like that.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say in the last 10 minutes. It doesn't happen. He's here.
Why not?
He's staying.
Why not?
He's not trans-dimensional. Because
you are assuming his dimensions.
I'm a dimensionist. If he's seen in this dimension, he's a dimension. This is where he is.
So for anybody listening, there's an entirely sane purpose why I said that. And that's just because the Cryptid Guy does not like that theory. So I will pick every chance I get.
Because it's ridiculous.
If I may segue off of that and ask the Cryptid Guy one question.
Yes, sir.
You also don't approve of a cryptid hunter imitating yells or tree knocks or rock knocks, anything like that. Why is that?
Well, that's a good question, Tiny. And here's one of the reasons. One, it's not that I don't approve. I just think they're stupid. 2, I think anyone trying to do something like that is bringing a whole lot of hurt on themselves. Because here's why. And I'm not saying anyone knows exactly what our fuzzy buddy's thinking or what they use to communicate. If someone's making these tree knocks or whoops, and that does bring something in, well, what if you just made it mad? Or what if you're just imitating the dinner bell? Or what if that's an alpha male challenge? Or what if it's a challenge for an alpha female?
You're speaking in a language you don't know.
Exactly. Not only that, you could be calling the dinner bell. And if you're calling something, 9 foot, 800 pounds, it's hungry, you just might be the buffet. So no, I just don't think that's a good idea.
Or like the possible 12-footer that we ran into that we were talking about last night on Coast.
That one, I still think, Tiny, that to me, I think that was the biggest set of footprints I've ever seen. I mean, they were 21 by 11, 72-inch stride. And what was that branch we were measuring? How high up was that? The one where it was busted, where we saw the friction burns on it?
Oh, that was at least 9 feet.
It wasn't tall. I thought you had to put up your walking stick to even get to touch it.
I have that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That particular cryptid, it could have been a Bigfoot, maybe a Dogman, but I think it was a Bigfoot, but I didn't see it. Whenever it was, when it grunted and it reverberated my chest, it had to have been huge because I don't even know where that came from.
Well, and it's a good thing to know. We go out looking, and personally, I want to look one in the eye.
Tiny wants to pet one.
I do. I want to pet one.
He's made that very clear.
It'll be on his tombstone.
We've all been briefed.
First man to pet a Sasquatch on film.
I told you so.
No problem.
But I want to experience one. I want to see one. I want to shake his hand, whatever may happen. But it's also a good thing to know your limits. And when it's time to go.
Oh, it's time to go, you go. Because, remember, that's the day we go out. We usually go out armed. I've spoken about this before on other podcasts. This was the one time, because there was people around the area we were in. We didn't want to scare anyone, and we didn't want to freak anyone out. So we just figured we'd just walk in, look for some evidence. Slim was with us, so we were just going to take some pictures, just, kind of do a little indoctrination. And the next thing I know, we're in hot pursuit. We were finding sign all over the place, stick glyphs, huge markers, footprints, just all kinds of, just everything. And we just got excited, and we just kept going further and further. And by the time we had actually found whatever it was that was doing this, it did not want us around. It made it very clear.
Well, if somebody comes into my house and I tell them, it's time for you to leave, it's probably a good idea they leave.
And we left.
So that's exactly what we should do because we're in their house.
For the record, for our listeners, the story that we've kind of segued into here is the one that was mentioned on Coast to Coast. And that was definitely the first one that came to mind and was one of our first investigations together as a group. So. And
also, you talk about following Slim through the woods, just so listeners know, she is a wood elf. That is a very difficult thing to do, follow her through the woods. So it would have to be a woodland creature.
You know what the funny thing is half the time she's gone. Like, what happened to her?
Exactly. She'll just appear.
And you say, Slim, she turned around like 40 yards away. She was behind a tree. Yes. Scaring the hell out of everyone. My Fringers, we are very, very lucky to have with us once more from the bowels of City Hall and the highest ranking government officials in the lovely city of Asheville, North Carolina, Mr. Zero. How you doing, Mr. Zero?
I'm well. Thank you, Cryptid Guy. I kind of wanted to go back to something that Tanya mentioned earlier, something we avoid talking about a lot, because it's a touchy topic since everybody wants to talk about it these days. I was trying to think of something scary or frightening. It reminds me of the D word, the demonic word here, since it's something that people are frightened of. We'll go back to the early 1990s. There was a gentleman I knew back then who was really into different aspects of demonology. I'm not going to say witchcraft. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with forms of ceremonial magic. Most of it is related to King Solomonic magic, which is actually Christian magic. But involved in that, there's the acknowledgement that demons exist. So there's a whole section of people that are focused particularly on demonic magic. Aleister Crowley was involved in this with Goetic invocation, things like that. Attempts to summon, command, control demons for certain purposes. Well, there was a guy that I knew that was really, really into this kind of stuff, and he ended up ordering a grimoire from a bookstore at the time, having it shipped, and started experimenting with all this crazy stuff. And it got another group of friends of mine involved in the same thing. So instead of giving a specific one-time thing, I'll just say there was a period of about a month where a lot of really crazy stuff happened right after that. A friend of mine's house filled with flies. His entire room filled with hundreds and hundreds of flies. And just like that, he woke up one day and saw a fly, left the room, came back later. The entire room was full of flies. He got rid of those flies. The same guy, a week later, his room filled with yellow jackets, like wasps. And for those of you who know, yellow jackets live in the ground. They're ground dwellers, so it's very odd for his room to fill with yellow jackets. This wasn't even the guy that was playing around with stuff. This was another guy that kind of got involved in it. There was a time, around the same time, all this happened around the same time. We were driving down the road way out in the country. We drove right past, it wasn't even really storming. It was very late evening, late dusk. It was almost night. The wind was blowing a little bit, but there wasn't a storm. It wasn't raining or anything like that. And we were just driving down the road, and a bolt of lightning struck a telephone pole on the side of the road where we were driving as we were driving past it. It's the closest I've ever been to a bolt of lightning. If any of you have ever been close to a bolt of lightning, it makes the electricity makes all your hair stand up, and the sound almost bursts your eardrums, and you can feel it in your chest. I thought that was quite the experience around the same time. And then to top it all off, the third instance, myself and two other people, there was a girl that was intimately involved with a gentleman that was attempting to summon and command these demons. She effectively lost her mind and went crazy. Ended up smearing feces on herself and on the wall, ended up getting committed, and she was in the hospital for months after that, actually. She didn't do drugs, didn't exhibit any signs of mental illness, anything like that. It's just she got involved with this guy and very quickly just kind of spiraled out of control, went downhill, ended up in the hospital, 7th floor. This all culminated with two other people and myself deciding that it would be a great idea to try to perform an exorcism on this gentleman. There was a park where I lived, and in this park, there was an area far off the trail where a stream streams will go underground and come out of the ground and go underground and come out of the ground. And the stream had gone under the ground where there's this giant oak tree. And it was this very special place. We all knew that it was a special spot. There was good energy there. So we took him out there about 3 o'clock, the witching hour, 3 o'clock in the morning, at night, in the forest, next to this tree. And we had gotten this, and remember, this was in the early 90s. This was before you could just go look stuff up on the internet. We had to dig for this old Catholic exorcism, and it was all in Latin. And we practiced and we trained ourselves to recite this exorcism. So there were 3 of us and this guy. We were out in the forest in this kind of sacred grove that we had been going to for a while. And we lit these candles, and we burned some frankincense and some other incenses. And we each held a candle, and we gave him a candle. And we started reciting this exorcism. And we took turns. It got to the point where he started making these really weird faces. And then finally, have you ever heard Mongolian throat singing? How they can hit 2 octaves at the same time? Well, he started making that sound when it was really high pitched. And it's the classic sound that you think of people making when that happens. And it was super, super freaky, and everybody's hair stood on end. And the more we recited this exorcism, the louder it got. And then finally he looks up at my friend. He just looks at my friend, and his candle goes out. Then he turns to look at me, and all of our candles went out. And there was no wind or anything. We were in the forest, but we would have known nothing blew the candle out. It just went out. Remember, we're kids, 90s. We didn't really know what the hell we were doing, so it freaked us out. And we stopped doing the exorcism, which is probably the worst thing you could have done. And we all just kind of gathered our stuff and took off. He ended up doing a bunch of really weird things. He ended up carving people's names into his arm. And we didn't have a lot to do with him after that. But I remember going back to the same park a couple weeks later, and everything felt really weird. So we did a whole, I guess you might want to call it a cleansing ceremony. I don't want to get too in depth of what it was, but if you ever seen the old, what they call magic squares from the Middle Ages, where we use one of those and a variety of charged crystals and stuff like that. And for all intents and purposes, it seemed to have worked, at least on the landscape. But whatever happened with him, I don't know. Clearly the exorcism that we attempted didn't work. It just freaked everybody out. I can say it was one of the few experiences I've had that was very real. And it was very unsettling at the time.
Mr. Zero, that is insane.
That's BANANAS.
You say that's crazy as hell. I'll say it. There's crazy. There's a level above that, and then this is crazy as hell. Did an exorcism. Stopped. Left the guy hanging.
I would like to have seen it.
I'm tripping on this story, man. I've got little goose pimples. That's not right, Zero. I don't want you sitting next to me anymore.
I definitely Evidently feel bad for the guy that was messing.
I know,
with
it's kind of
stuff.
like Zero whacked a guy, you know what I'm saying? It's like he completely ruined a guy and then let the demon move in.
Probably not the last. I would like to have seen that. But that goes back in one of our other podcasts. That goes back to what we were saying. Don't mess with stuff if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Never overestimate your abilities. We say that about cryptid hunting, camping, going in the woods, ghost hunting,
Seances, spells,
all the woo-woo stuff Slim does. Don't overestimate your abilities because that's not ever going to end well for you. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I think we have to end on that note.
I'm definitely, because
That's
I was
so
going to invite
intense.
Zero over to my house for Christmas, and now it's like, hey, yeah, I know now he like freaking wrecked a guy.
You have the holy rollers, it'll be fine.
That's true. I do have holy roller.
It's okay, Mr. Deere. We can hang out. We're the woo-woo.
Once more, from us here at Fringe Investigations, thank you for listening and keep believing.
Thank you for listening to Fringe Investigations. Remember, if you or anyone you know has a story they would like to share, or you're interested in being a guest, contact us at 828-782-3766 or 828-484-1637. Our email addresses are AshevilleCryptidSociety@gmail.com, CryptidGuy001@gmail.com, or mndparanormal@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our next episode. Have a nice day, and remember, keep believing.